Dad,
Yes, sir, Mr. Jackson.
it's Monday, October 31st, Halloween.
Ah, yes, sir. What we gonna do on this Halloween night?
We're going to talk about a spooky weekend of football. Are you ready?
Hey, I was born ready.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, what spooky happened over the weekend?
Well, I think we all know the spookiest of things that happened. Let's talk about a rivalry game that occurred in Ann Arbor between Michigan and Michigan State.
I remember the game. I kind of want to forget the game. I know who won the fight.
Yeah, well, that's that's actually questionable in of itself. But
Okay.
so yeah, just 2 weeks after James Franklin said that Michigan would need to do something about their tunnel, it was going to lead to big issues. 2 weeks later, Michigan and Michigan State played a game. Michigan did not cover the spread that we talked about. They covered the spread right before opening. The spread went from 22.5 to 21.5. Okay. Michigan won by 22 points. So Michigan State did, in fact, cover. But after the game, there was a bit of a tussle, and I guess we'll leave there.
Well, go back and let America know what Franklin said from Penn State. What did he say about the tunnel in Michigan?
He says they should have multiple tunnels because it'll cause issues.
And even if they don't have multiple tunnels, they should make it so that one team go in before another team. They shouldn't let the teams go in at the same time, because what you see happen after the Michigan State game could happen again.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Michigan has had that one tunnel for hundred of years, and this is like the first assault that we know of to have occurred. Last year, when Michigan finally beat Ohio State, there was a little bit of rowdiness at halftime, and same thing with Penn State. But this one escalated to something a little bit more, and Michigan State, Mel Tucker, they've suspended 4 players, and they're cooperating with law enforcement as it pertains to an assault on a few other players. But yeah, Michigan definitely. I mean, there was videos of the incident itself.
Just tell us what the incident was.
Basically, a couple of Michigan players went into the tunnel before Michigan was the rest of the team went in, and I don't know how it happened. Nobody, I don't think, saw the beginning of it, but there's a couple of videos where you could see a cornerback number 1 skipping into the locker room right before.
For which team?
For Michigan, following Michigan State. And later you saw Michigan State players hitting him with like their helmets and kicking him when he was down. And we don't know what happened in between time, but whatever. I would imagine it's not going to justify the end results, and there's going to be some fallout for both programs, but specifically Michigan State and their reputation.
Yeah, most likely you are right. It's always the second guy, the guy who retaliates, who gets caught.
Well, also the guys that gang up.
Yeah, we don't know what was said. I mean, there was no reason for the Michigan player to enter the tunnel that early, in my mind.
Well, there was less reason to beat.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
I think there's like been a false equivalency, like of, maybe taunting is equal to literal assault. But that's some.
No, I'm not saying that, but you got to be aware that if you do taunt people, you just got to be aware that there's potential for retaliation. I mean, you need to be aware of that. And I don't even know if the guy was taunting anyone, but I would say that. There's no reason for him to. I mean, he should stay out in the field and celebrate that victory with all of his fans and the other team. That's my thought on it. But as you said, Michigan State has suspended 4 guys, and Michigan State cannot afford to suspend any players. They're already in dire straits, to say the least. Dire straits. But we'll see. So your take on the thing is that. What's your take on the civil suit that potentially coming up? Can you see these players doing jail time?
I wouldn't imagine it would be jail time. I don't know their criminal histories. I don't know anything like that, but I would imagine for a first offense in this situation, they would be punished. But I actually don't know enough about the legal system. That's probably something we'd have to get in my big sis to.
Yeah, I could
discuss.
call my daughter. She's an attorney.
She might know better.
Licensed to practice law in the state of Missouri, but not here in Lansing. But that's okay. Yeah, I think maybe they might do 40 hours community service, or maybe 5 hours community service. Who knows? But something like that.
I would assume that their time as Michigan State athletes is probably, at least for the people that were swinging helmets, for sure. I think that that time has probably come to an end.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if the entire.
I don't know if I would go that far, because in a moment of madness, people do weird things. I don't know if I would withdraw their scholarship. That's just me. Even if it was a Michigan player hitting a Michigan State player after a loss, I don't know if I would want them to lose their scholarship. But that's just me. So what do you think about that one tunnel that James Franklin mentioned? Should there be less chaos when you're going in and out at halftime and at the end of the game?
I actually don't see a big deal about it. The couple of the scuffles or whatever between Penn State and Ohio State. I mean, you see that on the field. That was nothing to me. This escalated to something more, but it was a one-time occurrence. I think going forward, the security is going to be more aware of certain players. I think they're just going to segregate the teams.
I agree, but when you can engineer a change, and an engineered change would be let the visitors go in first or let the home team go in first, something like that. A small engineering aspect of it could help a lot. And although it's been like this for hundreds of years, the world is constantly changing. What worked 100 years ago may not always work today. That's just my take on it. But Michigan won. Congrats to Michigan. They're undefeated, 8-0. One of the best teams in the country right now.
Yeah, by virtue of the country not looking too good is what I would say, but I would say that they're one of the best teams in the country for sure.
How good is Michigan, JJ? We know their running game is really good. How good is their other aspect? Their defense is decent. I don't think their defense has really been tested, but how good is the other aspect of their offense?
I think the other aspects of their offense are, I think they're really good actually. I think JJ McCarthy, I think he's like 10th or 9th in passing yards, but he's very accurate, and the passes that he does make are high level passes that Cade McNamara actually struggled with. So I do think that as not just as a running threat, but as a passer, I think JJ McCarthy is an upgrade because of his arm strength. There's still things that he doesn't identify and recognize. And I am worried that they don't, I kind of want them to be able to get more reps in when it comes to the passing game. They stalled out in the red zone very frequently. They only had 2 touchdowns.
Kicking field goals.
Yeah, they kicked a lot of field goals. They do that. They've done that a lot this year. And that's very concerning because you can't trade field goals for touchdowns against Ohio State. You can't do that against Georgia. You can't do that against Tennessee.
Let me ask you about their pass defense. Mel Tucker told his players that Michigan couldn't stop their passing game. Can Michigan stop Ohio State's passing game, Tennessee's passing game, Georgia's passing game? Can they slow them down?
They can absolutely stop Georgia's for sure.
Okay.
Tennessee and Ohio State are a completely different playing field. If Jackson Smith-Ajigba is playing, he's going to be the first wide receiver taken in the 2023 draft. And Ohio State also has the player that will be the first wide receiver taken in the 2024 draft, in Marvin Harrison Jr. They have the 2 best wide receivers in the country when healthy. So I don't know if anybody can stop that.
So how good is Michigan's pass defense?
I think it's pretty good. I think they stopped Michigan State decently.
They did the second half. Maryland had some.
They had all of 7 points in the first.
I know.
Okay.
We're talking the yardage though. At least that's what I was talking.
Oh, I care about points.
Maryland passing game was pretty decent against Michigan.
They were.
I'm not convinced that Michigan's defense can hold up to a really good offense. But that's just me. That's why they play the game.
I do know Michigan's pass defense held Penn State to better performance. They did better against Penn State than Ohio State did, which we can transition to that game now.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so for 3 quarters, Ohio State, Penn State was close. And then, in the fourth quarter, Penn State the wheels kind of ran off and Ohio State blew it wide open. I picked Ohio State to cover. And with like a minute left in the game, they were covering. They had just scored a touchdown. And then Penn State scored with like a minute to go to sneak in that backdoor cover. But Penn State looked pretty good. Parker Wilson had like 173 yards, and he was just making every contested catch. Sean Clifford looked good.
Ohio State was a 15.5-point favorite in that game.
They were, and
they won by what, 13?
Yeah,
13. And I took those 15.5 points, so I covered. I won that part of it. Ohio State was as you said, shaky the first 3 quarters of the game. Man, I wonder about the Big Ten in general. I really do.
I wonder about every conference.
Let me ask you this, and I'm going all across the board right now. TCU, they're undefeated. How good are they compared to Michigan? If they go undefeated and Michigan lose one game, or if Ohio State lose one game, could an undefeated TCU get into the championship before a one-loss Big Ten team?
I would expect TCU to have a when they reveal like the college playoff rankings, I would expect them to be ahead of Michigan in the college football playoff, just because the resume and the amount of wins that they have against top 10 or top 25 teams. But I'm not sure how good the Big 12 is in general. After what happened to Oklahoma State, I'm not sure if that win is necessary by 48 points by their backup quarterback. But
shut out.
So I'm not sure how good Big 12 is. I know the SEC is down. Alabama isn't. Well, the SEC isn't down. I'll say Alabama.
West is down.
Alabama and Texas A&M are down. Mississippi looks to be one-dimensional and capable of being exposed.
Yeah.
LSU's good.
LSU is good. LSU plays Alabama next weekend.
They do.
That's good. Okay, so we would transition to the Ohio State game. We've discussed that pretty much. Penn State is I would say decent against the weak team, and I don't know how they are against the good teams. They were lousy against Michigan, decent against Ohio State. Man, I don't know.
They have some questions. They might have to address some coordinators, but moving on from Penn State to Ohio State.
Illinois and Nebraska. Illinois is right now is the talk of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
If you ask me. 7-1, JJ.
Yeah.
Brent Bielema, man, all they've done is win.
They have that's very much true.
Yeah.
Nebraska made it close until halftime. Their quarterback got knocked out the game at halftime, and when Casey Thompson went out,
it was over.
It was pretty much over. Illinois just opened it up, and
so how good is Illinois, JJ?
They're very good. They have the best running back. They have the running back. They're not the best running back. They have the running back with the most yards in the country, or at least he did going into that game. I didn't see if that was still the case, but he had the most yardage going into that game. They have statistically the best defense in the country, or one of the top 2 in almost every basic category. So I think a running game and a defense will travel anywhere.
Okay. They're speaking of travel. 4 games remaining. Michigan State will be there next weekend, and a couple weekends after that, they're going to have Michigan at home. That's the only test left in the regular season for Illinois, the Michigan game. Is that a good matchup?
That's a big test for Michigan. That's going to be the second best team Michigan's played.
Is that a good matchup? And it's an
incredibly good matchup because they play the exact same style. Like Illinois just does it with less 5-stars.
Okay.
But they have a great defense and a dynamic running game.
So the Illinois-Nebraska game, we both missed that one last week. We picked Nebraska to cover. Illinois was a 7.
Yeah, but to be fair, Nebraska
lost
quarterback. You can't account for stuff like that.
But it's it is what it is. So that's the Big Ten wrap, JJ. Anything else about those three games you want to say?
Nothing more to say about the Big Ten
Let's go to the Southwest Conference.
or the Southeast.
Oh, that's right.
Arkansas.
Well, they used to be in the Southwest Conference.
That's true. So Texas A&M.
I was thinking Arkansas.
Yeah.
Okay, but the Southeast Conference will work. Arkansas and Auburn. What did Arkansas do that made Auburn decide they didn't like their coach?
Well, they covered the 3.5 points. I did not have them covering that. I thought Auburn would. I mean, you've heard good things about like how the players are responding to the coach, and I thought they might rally because knowing that Bryan Harsin's job was in jeopardy, but they did not. They did not rally. They kind of folded like a chair.
Yeah, they did. They did. I'm gonna say this about Arkansas. Arkansas offense is a lot better than the country might expect. I might know. The leading rusher in the Southwest Conference, I think he carried. I keep saying Southwest. Southeast Conference. SEC. I think he carried the ball about 11, 12 times, had 175 yards. And in the BYU game, he did the same thing, had a very small number of carries, but had over like 150 yards in that game.
Felix Jones would be proud.
I'm just saying, Arkansas's offense is really good. What has disappointed me about their offense is KJ Jefferson. His accuracy is not as good as it was last year. It's decent, but last year was better. He could drop dimes last year. This year, he's missing some receivers a little bit more than he did last year. But
the windows are tighter, I think, without Traylon Burks.
Yeah, they got a good test next week against Liberty. That's going to be a humongous game. But we both had the Arkansas. I think we both had. Yeah, we both. No, I had.
He had Arkansas. You had Arkansas covering. I thought Auburn was gonna.
Okay.
Show a little bit more.
Okay. What about the other games in the SEC?
Let's go to Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee put a whooping on Kentucky that I think Kentucky's going to remember for a while. There's a lot of talk about Will Levis being like the best quarterback in the country, definitely the best quarterback in the conference, potentially the number 1 overall pick. And I think Hendon Hooker in Tennessee, we're not happy about that. I said Tennessee had a good passing defense, and
yeah, you did.
They were able to show up. They were able to demonstrate that as Will Levis passed for less than 100 yards.
Had some great interceptions.
He did.
Tennessee's defensive back made some plays. But, JJ, Tennessee, while their pass defense may be good, you and I know and everybody know what Tennessee is known for. What's Tennessee known for?
Having the Heisman Trophy winner, the future Heisman Trophy winner, and Hendon Hooker.
Throwing the rock.
Yes.
Throwing the rock.
Yeah.
That's what they're known for. I mean, I don't know how many points they're averaging per game this year, but I think it's number 1 in the country. I tell you what, if anybody out there planning on beating Tennessee and they play Georgia next week, if anybody planning on beating Tennessee, they better have a pass defense out of this world. They got to have some corners. And you know what? Corners are not born every night.
Yeah.
They're not born every night. I'm picking Tennessee to make a whole lot of noise in the college football world this year. And let me see. We both had Tennessee covering the 12.5 points against Kentucky.
Cover they did.
Okay, Georgia, Florida. Georgia was giving up 22.5 points.
Yeah, and that I thought
and we both took the points.
We both took the points.
And they won by 22.
That half point came in handy against Michigan State, and then Florida.
It made the difference.
Florida, Georgia.
It made the difference. Okay. Well, there's another game. I think
those were the
3.
Those were the Big Ten and SEC games this week.
Anything else?
Not for the Big Ten SEC as it pertains to football. We've already gone a little bit over time, so I think that'll do it for this week.
Okay.
We will follow up with a preview of Week 10 though, and it might be more SEC heavy than Big Ten. Just looking at the games.
Yeah, the Big Ten schedule looked mighty weak next week. But make sure you come back and watch that preview that's coming up.
Real quick. So there's 5. We're transitioning to basketball. This is not the best segue in the world, but the AP poll was released, and the Champions Classic is what, tomorrow?
Oh man, it snuck up on me. But You're right, it is.
So 5 ranked teams in the SEC, 3 ranked teams in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten's the highest rated team was number 13 Iowa, and everybody else was in the 20s.
Big Ten always been a basketball conference. What's happening? We'll talk about that.
By Iowa, I mean Indiana. Sorry about that. Yeah. We will talk about the downfall of the Big Ten. Is their demise over exaggerated, or are they really not going to have the elite programs that they're used to having? Michigan was ranked 22, and Illinois is ranked 23.
Okay.
And when it comes to the SEC, Kentucky was leading the way again at 4. But there's another team that's in the top 10 in the SEC, and that team resides in Fayetteville.
Yeah, but they were not as highly ranked as I thought. But we're gonna do some basketball, and make sure you come back and check out all that we have to do, especially if you're a basketball fan, because the season is kicking off. Arkansas potentially has the best player in college in the country. Right now, people are saying, maybe not the best, but the highest draft player. We'll talk more about that. But JJ, we're pretty out of here.
Yeah.
But we'll be back. And all I got to say before we go, WPS.
And who they playing tonight?
We'll pick Suey.
Beat the Browns.
All right.